In our last class, we were able to open our folder that we created on our desktop right here in our VS Code, ready for us to start writing our Python program. So, where we're going to continue from is how to write a variable or how to create a variable in Python. Before we can start creating a variable, we need to create a Python file. All right. Now I'm going to click on this first icon, and because we want to create a variable, I'm going to call it variable dot. Now every programming language has its own code extension or language extension. So in this case, we're writing Python and the extension is .py. All right. So here, this extension tells our code editor that it is Python code that we want to write. So once you have typed variable.py, you press enter on the keyboard. And you can see that our file has been created, ready for us to write our code. Now, to start creating a variable in Python, you just start by putting a variable name. And in this case, I want to create a variable that will store my first name. So I'll put first name space assignment operator space. I'll open quotation marks and I'll put my surname here. I'll press enter. On the second, I'll make it big. On the second line, I'll put another variable that will store my last name. I'll call it last name space assignment operator space quotation marks, and I'll put mark. Now I want to put another variable that is going to store my age. So I'll put age space assignment operator space 40. I'll put another variable that is going to store my weight. So I'll put weight space assignment operator space, and maybe let's form a figure 40.5. All right. Now I'm going to create another variable that is going to store a Boolean value if I'm a male or female. So I'm going to call it is male space assignment operator space. I'm going to type true. All right. Now, all these 5 lines of code you are seeing, they are all variables. This is a variable, this is a variable, but I decided to create variables that will store different data types. All right. These 2 first variables, first name and last name, is storing a data type of string. All right. Because I've said in our last class and 2 classes ago that strings are types of data that is made up of letters. Now, this age variable is storing a data type of number, and you can see that string variables are wrapped up in quotation marks, this and this. All right, and number variables don't need to be wrapped up in quotation marks. This is a decimal number, and a decimal number is a type of variable called floating numbers or floats. This I did not explain in Scratch because Scratch do not really recognize floats or could not differentiate between floats and numbers. And then this is another type of variable called Boolean that accepts or takes two options, true or false, yes or no, on or off. All right, now we have created our variables. For us to see what we have created to run our program, to see how Python can print out our data that we have stored in our variable, we need to use a method called print. You open brackets, and then the variable that you want to print out, you put the variable name in between this bracket. So I'm going to print out first name. Okay. At this point, I'm going to use my Control S to save. And you can see right here the play button or the run button. If I click on this file, it's going to run this program for me. And it will automatically open our console where you will see the output of this first name. So I'll click on run. Okay. I clicked on it twice, that's why. But you can see here, this is a Python file, and you can see that it has printed out my first name for me. And the second time also, it printed it out here for me. So if I want to print out my first name and last name, I will do the same. Print, open brackets, last name. All right, then I save. I'll run it again. And here you can see Asogwa Mark. Okay. So that's the same way you can. Let me make it. Okay, let me reduce the size so that we can see it very well. Okay, so that's the same way you can print out every other data that you have stored in a variable. The age, weight is male. You can decide to print all of them out. So for us to print all of them, we just keep on typing print age, print weight, and then print is male. And then we run, and you can see first name, last name, age, weight is male. True. If I change it to false, and I save and run, if I run it, the output now is showing false. Why? Because I changed the true to false. Actually, the computer doesn't know if I'm a male or female because the condition is not set yet. All right, so this is how you create a variable in Python. And when you create a variable, how you can run your Python codes to see the output of the code that you have written. Now, another thing that I want to show you very quickly before I wrap up this class is I just explained that these variables are storing different data. All right. There is another method called type that we can use to know the type of data that a particular variable is storing. So I'm going to use that here so that we can see the type of variable or the type of data contained in each of these variables. So I'm going to use the keyword type with another bracket, and here I'm going to put last name. Now, if I run this, you will see that only this one, the last name, is showing me str, and this str stands for string. That tells us that the type of data stored in this variable is a string data type. Now, this one here, I'm going to put the age variable there. So I'll put type and I'll put age. I would save it and I will run. Now, you see that the second data type, which is age, is int. Int stands for integer. Integer is a number data type. Now let me add for the remaining two. For weight, I'm going to type and I'll put weight, and then the last one I'm going to type and I'll put is male. I would save and then I would run again. So you see that the third one is floats. Like I said earlier, floating points. Floating points is a type of data that is a decimal number type of data. That is what is called floating points. Sorry. That's what is called floating point, or you call it floats. And then the last data type here is bool, or in full you call it boolean, and is a type of data that has two options. It's either this or that. That's a type of data called bool or boolean. All right, so I think I'm going to stop this class here. We have learned how to create our variables, how to print out our variables, and how to check the type of data stored in a variable. I don't think we did it in Python programming language.